Of all of Nintendo's consoles, the Virtual Boy is the one that gets the least love. One of Nintendo's few failures, it had a problematic development period and was rushed out in order to compete with the Saturn and PlayStation, meaning that it shipped with certain issues which could have been resolved. There are plenty of retrospectives out there which can tell you more about it, and I do urge you to watch one. Years later we can enjoy it for what it is, and contrary to popular belief, there are actually some pretty good games for it which hold up today and are still fun to play. To make this video, I needed an expert, so I went to the guy who made the first full set of Virtual Boy reviews on YouTube, and my mate, Johan, to help me put together this list.
Ever since I found out that there existed a Nintendo console I had never tried, and a weird red and black supposedly virtual reality console at that, I just had to try it. And I just so happened to like it a lot. And I went on to collect most of the games for it, the rest being covered by the wonderful Flash Boy cartridge. I think almost all of the Virtual Boy games are at least decent, but of course there are standouts.
Welcome to our top 5 Virtual Boy games. Red Alarm is often simply called a knockoff Starwing/Star Fox, but that's not entirely fair to it. It's a 3D shooter in which you take a ship called a Tech Wing through 5 levels, each ending with a boss. The most obvious thing about it is the wireframe graphics, which are an attempt to make the 3D style work with the limited horsepower of the Virtual Boy. It's really down to preference whether or not you like this style, but I for one do. It makes me think of how virtual reality was always portrayed in 80s movies, and it runs quite smooth, so it's not a pain to look at. It features some stuff which Starwing doesn't do too, such as the ability to actually turn around if required, rather than being on rails. You can even reverse. There are plenty of different enemy and level varieties, which help to keep the rather short game quite fresh. There are some problems, such as low draw distance, but overall it's a very fun game. The music and gameplay are great fun, and it's enjoyable even to this day.
Even if you're not Japanese, looking into the Japanese-only releases is always a good idea, regardless of the console. Space Squash is a good example of this. It's basically 3D Pong with cute flying robots. The squash part only comes into play during the boss fights. This is one of the few games that uses both D-pads, as you can hit the ball with either hand of the robot. It's a simple game to be sure, but Coconuts Japan still put in some power-ups and bonus stages on top of the already fun gameplay.
TeleRoboxer is the kind of game which seems to cause some controversy in the gaming community, because some gamers love it, whilst others think it's pretty mediocre. It's essentially a 3D boxing game featuring giant robots smacking each other around. It feels immersive and has a real vibrancy to it which makes you feel every hit. That being said, it is on the short side, and there are only 8 fighters, with the gameplay being essentially getting a title and then trying to hold it. This is one of the reasons many gamers find it mediocre. It doesn't have a huge amount of replayability, but for me, I really like it. I always have a huge amount of fun playing it, and I think it's one of the best poster childs of the Virtual Boy. It's simple yet fun, and that's what gaming is really about.
Wario Land, the game that even the haters have to agree is pretty damn good. Being released after Super Mario Land 3 Wario Land, this is the second and last Wario game to have the simple style of getting to the end of a level while collecting treasures. I love a good platformer, and this is certainly that. It's brimming with clever level design, jumping in and out of the background is surprisingly fun, and something that is well used during the boss fights. The graphics use all shades of red to the utmost and deliver visuals that if colorized would have looked good on a Super Nintendo. And the music is catchy as well. The game is fun enough to warrant more than one playthrough already, but if you're so inclined there are also multiple endings depending on how much treasure you got to the end with and in what time. But whichever way you slice it, Wario Land is a great game.
Bound High was a game that was meant to be released in 1996, but due to the lack of success of the console, was shelved and never released, despite being fully complete. Nowadays, it's possible to play it through the use of flashcards, so gamers can find out what they are missing. And it really is the best game developed for the system. If this had been the packing title with the console, it may have ended up having a very different fate. In the game you play as Chalvo, a robot which must travel through space to catch alien invaders. Viewing from a top angle, the idea is to bounce around and land on aliens, knocking them off the playfield. If you fall off yourself, you lose a life, so the goal is to balance defeating enemies with trying to stay in play. There are different angles when you hit an enemy, and there are various items, puzzles, objects, spikes, and more which give a real variety to the gameplay, all whilst making good use of the 3D effects.
Bound High was a thrill to me the first time I played it. I was almost shocked how fun it felt to play it. But it's no mere tech demo either. It has many levels, other modes and boss fights. It's a complete game. And unlike most, if not all the other games on the Virtual Boy, this game almost could not have been made for any other system, barring maybe the VR of today. Technically sure, but the Virtual Boy's 3D effects really make it stand out. Highly recommended. I don't think the common and not unusually unfounded opinions of the Virtual Boy, that it's pure trash and causes eye damage, will ever go away. But I will continue to do what I can to combat this notion, which is what I hoped my reviewing of all the games would do. And now, including this video.
Thanks for watching this video, and thanks to Johan for agreeing to make it with me. I hope you enjoyed it, and if it got you interested in trying out a Virtual Boy for yourself sometime, that can't be a bad thing. If you want to watch a video with some colours that aren't red or black, please check out the rest of my videos on my channel, as well as the ones on Johan's, and do consider subscribing to us. Goodbye!